What's up? Matthew Heafy from Trivium, presenting today Mike Inez from Alice in Chains, from Ozzy. We talk about some incredible stuff, and he's been a hero of mine, a hero of ours, a hero of all of yours for ages. And it's so cool to hear some of the things that we lived by that he's always lived by. So very encouraging. We talk about some incredible stuff. Let's check it out right now.
Hey, brother, how are you,
What's
man?
up, man? Great to see you. How you been?
Oh, good.
Awesome. Yeah, last time we saw each other was the Grammys, man. So it's been a
I
while.
was just thinking about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a great time.
let me get the sun out of my face real quick.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. Chat, how's his level? Everybody think he's good? Level sound good? Awesome.
Yeah, I remember the Grammy, that gift lounge. I remember the gift
Yeah.
lounge.
Yeah, that was a good time, man. It was so good to be able to catch up with you guys and meet you guys and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't even think they do those gift lounges anymore.
Oh, they don't? Dang, yeah, that was our first and only experience thus far. So I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome. I like this.
Yeah.
I like the free stuff. Heck yeah, man. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here today, man. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
my pleasure, dude. My pleasure.
Yeah, well,
Early in California.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. I have twin, almost 5-year-olds, so they always wake us up nice and early.
Oh, bless though, man.
Yep.
That is so great,
Yeah,
dude.
they're awesome, man. Yeah, we were like, oh, let's have a kid, and then we had two. We're like, we're good now.
Yeah, you're good, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, what we like to do here is, I know this is probably a story we've told before, but we've got a whole bunch of new friends that want to learn all about you. They're all huge fans of what you do, inspired by what you do, and we like to take it from kind of the origin story, like a superhero story. So I would
Oh,
love to go way back. The first time you started noticing, let's say, heavier music, rock music, and you started kind of falling in love with that. What age were you? Where were you? And how did this path all lead us to where we are today?
oh man, it even goes back before the heavy music. My uncle Matt Inez, who's my mother's brother, only brother, and he passed away now. He was a band leader and a keyboard player, so in the San Fernando Valley here in California, and he was a local legend. You know, he played in all these bands. He was in bands with like Al McKay from Earth, Wind and Fire in high
Wow.
school and stuff like this. You know, so he was from an early age. So pretty much the day, and they rehearsed at my grandmother's house where we all lived at the beginning, right? So I literally came home from the hospital. My grandmother delivered me. She was a nurse, and she actually delivered me at the hospital. We took home. They took me home, and then my grandma had to go tell my uncle, "Hey, the new baby's home. Stop! You can't have band rehearsal here for a couple of weeks, right?" So I literally went from the hospital to a live band situation, you know, in my house,
Man,
you know.
that's so awesome.
I always grew up with like drum sets and just, you know, my uncle, before he'd go to work every day when I was a little kid, he's all right, don't touch any of my shit. It's like, oh, okay, no problem. I got you. And then, you know, me and my little cousins would go out there and we'd play drums, turn on all the amps, of course, and just, you know, destroy everything. But I mean, that's how it started. My whole family are musicians, a lot of them. I come from a very big like Filipino family, you know. So I mean, we're still to this day, we're always at family gatherings, just jamming in the backyard and everybody's singing. It's just such a great vibe, you know, to grow up and to be a musician. So I kind of like knew I was always going to do this. Like even at an early age, when your teachers are asking you, well, you got to think about what you're going to do for your life. What are you going to do for a living? And I just always knew I'd be doing this on some level somewhere. I just always knew I'd be playing music. I never knew it was going to be like, you know, on this level and all these great adventures, you know, that I've been blessed to have over the years. But yeah. And so then, you know, getting into high school, by this time my family had moved to the Pasadena area. So I went to high school from 1980 to 84, right? So, you know, Van Halen, it was ground zero. We're in Pasadena. Van Halen's playing. I used to ride my bikes and hop over fences and watch him play like tennis courts at rich people's house, like early on.
That's so cool.
And I'm really good friends with like Michael Anthony's little brother, you know, so we all grew up together and, you know, all the techs even. And so, yeah, so I knew at a very early age, like that's what I want to do. And then it culminated for me at the greatest concert I think I've ever been to was the US Festival in 1983. So we all lied to our parents saying we were going to spend the night at each other's house. And then we ended up just jumping in the back of this guy's pickup truck, spending the weekend out there. And then it was heavy metal day on the Saturday, right? So, you know, Van Halen headlined, and it was like, you know, Scorpions and Motley Crue and Ozzy, the first time I seen Ozzy play live. Jakey Lee's first gig. It was um, uh, Judas Priest last day of the Screaming for Vengeance tour,
Oh, that's so
right?
sick.
Yeah, I had a dinner with the Judas Priest guys in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and so I asked Rob about that. I said, "Hey, what about the US Festival?" And he told me that it was the last day, and then literally they flew to the Bahamas to start Defenders of the Faith the next day.
Oh man.
So, yeah, I mean, we would never do something like that, but he
Yeah.
said it was a different time, and so just to see it from like to hear it from his point of view and Ozzy's point of view, it's really just great to see it from that perspective because I was like in the audience there, and I'm looking up and I took some acid, right? There was this US Festival acid. So me and my friends, we took the acid and I ended up being separated from my friends. So I was by myself during the Scorpions and Ozzy sets. So I saw Ozzy play that day. And I'm not advocating use of acid, right? Anyway, I don't do any of that stuff anymore. But, so I'm watching Ozzy, and I had this moment of clarity where I was like, okay, I'm on the wrong side of the fucking PA, right? I got to be on the other side. That's where all the cool shit is, right? And I remember I didn't have passes. Some of my friends had passes with the Van Halen camp, but they weren't letting them back in until Van Halen showed up, which is way later in the day. So I just started thinking about, okay, I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out, So from that moment until 1990, when I joined the Ozzy band, it was only 7 years, So I had the epiphany. I'm watching Ozzy. I said, okay, I got to do that. And I got to figure it out. I got to get on the other side of the PA. And then God bless, I did, man. And then I'm off and running with Ozzy in 1990, So it's just such a great experience. And me and Zach Wilde, I would say we went to the University of Ozzy Osbourne. That was where we went to college, And for what we wanted to do for a living, there's no better way to learn this business than to be in the Ozzy Osbourne band and just like watching and a lot of old English crew guys and road managers, So me and Zach just had a blast in that band. It was just such an honor and a blessing. And to this day, I just love Ozzy and Sharon for just that opportunity. Me and Zach at 22 and 20 in the Ozzy band, or 22 and 21 in the Ozzy band. Zach was in there when he was like 19. And Randy Castillo, great drummer, just amazing core band. And God, it's just God, like that. From that moment, changed my whole like life trajectory, right? Like Ozzy and Sharon, I always just give it up to them for, if it wasn't for those two people, and my life wouldn't have gone down this path. I wouldn't have met Alice in Chains, and from there, I wouldn't have met like all the other people I've jammed with over the years, So it was just heavy rock was it for us, though. That was the golden age of heavy metal. If you think about those records, 80 to 84 is, I mean, just all the Van Halen records, Rush Moving Pictures, Streaming for Vengeance, Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, Ozzy's first two, it's just amazing time for heavy rock, Yeah. Kind of, at the risk of sounding like an old man, I mean, those were killer, man. You're never going to see that amount of classic music come out at one time,
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Amazing.
But yeah, so that's how it started for me, man. Just jamming. I keep it so simple, man. I just show up and I look for food. I turn on an amp and I just make a bunch of racket and hope for the best.
Man, I love that. That's so awesome. Yeah. That's so awesome. Well, you mentioned
I don't overthink it.
That's so cool. You mentioned like kind of like the college days where you were out with Ozzy. It made me think too. When I was 18, we were on tour with Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden on Ozfest, and I was like, oh man, that kind of reminded me of that, like this. And we were looking at the lineup as well for that run. We're like, man, are we ever going to see a lineup like this again? Like Sabbath and Maiden on the same thing?
What year was that?
I would have been 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was when Maiden, I think they first started doing their kind of like, their like greatest hits tours kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's so cool. And it's really inspiring too to hear that, growing up and you basically showing up at band practice from the hospital and like seeing all these instruments around, having this around all the time is what encouraged you to do that. Because that's the same thing that happened with me. I'm half Japanese, and there was a little bit of music on my mom's side, but my dad always had guitars around. And I remember the first guitar that I've ever been pictured with, I was like maybe 4 months old. I wasn't actually playing it, but it was one of those headless Steinberger guitars. So that was like
Wow.
laid on top of me in Japan. I was like sitting there with that. So I got one of those and I've been having my kids play. I'm like, hey, just jam on it. Just go for it. Just start playing. So that's really cool to hear that like it
Good.
being
And
around can inspire
you
you
could
like that.
retire. You could retire now and let them take over
Exactly.
next.
Oh man. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's so cool, man. So well what's always been so interesting for me with Alice in Chains and what you guys have done is how it influenced a lot of like subgenres, but the big genres as well. Like it's so influential on rock, but also really crossed over to metal really amazingly, I feel like, and all these things. But that makes sense with the roots that you had coming up through that. Have you guys ever been able to kind of like, because we're asked this question, I always say maybe not really, but have you been able to kind of like look around and go, wow, look at this vast influence we've had across all these different genres, across all these different bands? Have you been able to kind of like stop and smell the roses for a minute and see what a cool thing you guys have done?
Uh, like we're really humbled about it, you know, and it wasn't like some grand design. It's just the way that those four guys, and even before I joined the band, those other four guys, um, you know, just how the chemistry feels, you know, and it's always just like, you know, you have some riffs and you go in the studio and it crafts, you know, you feed off each other, you know, like watching Lane Staley do vocals in the early years was just, it was amazing to watch that guy because he didn't approach it like anybody else. And I think that's a secret about Alice in Chains is kind of like when we get together to do stuff, it's like we're just kind of trying to make the cool noise come out of the speakers. That's really basic, you know, just like, oh, that sounds cool or it doesn't sound cool. And I had a friend of mine, bass player friend from Berkeley, and he's an instructor at Berkeley, and he was like breaking down wood, for instance. You know, oh, you're doing this and that and the other, and I'm just looking at him like, oh shit, I do not even know what he's talking about. You know, so we're just going for the way it makes us feel more so than us first, and then if we dig it, then usually other people dig it too. We're really, you know, humbled and grateful and appreciative to all the fans over the years and stuff. But I mean, you can't take it too serious. You can't start smelling your own farts too much about your own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, um, basically, if we can do it, anybody could do it, right? It's just a 1 in a million chemistry we got together. I met the Alice guys. We were doing, it was probably a 16 or 18 month final leg of the Ozzy No More Tears record. And then so we came off the road, and then we were mixing the Live and Loud record. And then Sean calls me from Hawaii, and he says, hey, would you like to, at this point, they said, Mike's going to go home for a while. Will you do Brazil and Europe leg? And I said, okay. So I went down, got all these vaccination shots to go down to Brazil. And it was like, I think it was like Peppers and Nirvana, Alice in Chains, I think it was January of 1993. And so I asked Ozzy, I said, hey, Ozzy, I would never leave you without a bass player. So if it's not cool, I won't go. And then I remember his quote. He says to me, he says, if you don't go, we have to go to the hospital. And I said, oh, why? And he said, well, because it's going to take him a week to get my foot out of your ass. He said, go, go, hang out with your friends, you know, because we did probably maybe 6 months with Alice in Chains at the very end of the Ozzy cycle, and they were just releasing the Dirt album. So so then I was all ready to go to Brazil, and then they called me up and they said, well, Mike Starr wants to do the last show in Brazil, so we'll just meet you in London. So I mean, I had probably like 6 or 8 vaccinations to go down there. I was like, it would look like radiator fluid going in. Yeah. You assholes, I got all these vaccinations to go to this thing. So I met him in London, and then we had 3 rehearsals. And the first day they were pretty smoked and jet lagged, so we just like kind of sat around and talked, got to know each other, smoked a bunch of hash, right? And we just sat in a rehearsal place, John Henry's in London. And then so we did, including the Jules Holland show, I think that the count was 27 gigs in 32 days in 16 countries, with the Screaming Trees opening up for us. Right?
Holy cow.
Yeah, so we're just living on the bus, and the Dirt album was just breaking. And then so it was wild. So at that point in my career, after coming up like this Ozzy thing, which is all just sold out big shows. Now I'm playing small clubs again. It was really cool, you know, but I'm it almost couldn't be any other way to join Alice in Chains. You have to do those kind of miles with them in those days. So I just jumped right in, and it was so funny. I'd be at shows, and I'm learning the songs like on my Walkman on the way there and stuff. And like Lane would go, this is a song called Junkhead. It's like, and then I'd run over to Lane. I'm like, hey, wait, which one's Junkhead? And then he'd sing it to me like, nah, nah, nah. It's like, all right, you got it? I'm like, yeah, I got it. Go. Yeah. So it was like, I was, you know, so, but by the end of that tour, we were really super, super tight. You know, the band was playing really good. And Lane was just a monster on vocals, just monstrous. I mean, I always say my career, I owe it to everybody else. I mean, you know, I'm blessed with great drummers like Sean Kinney or Randy Castillo or Matt Sorum when I was playing with Slash, or just all these different cool people, you know, and guitar players. You go down the list, Slash and Zach Wilde and Jerry Cantrell, and then singers, you got, you know, Ann Wilson, the best of the best, and Lane Staley, my favorite, and Ozzy is just stratospheric. Ozzy, I've never seen another singer like command a crowd and just like Ozzy. It's just one in a million thing. It's just this, he's got this connection with so many people at the same moment, you know. It's just Ozzy was just amazing in the early 90s, and still to this day, I just love the man. I'd do anything for that guy, you know, just the best dude. And so I just like got just Forrest Gump my way into these situations, and then all this, you know, it's just really cool. So, you know, I'm always a team player, you know, like yeah, like my favorite Laker was always James Worthy, right? He needed him he'd hit the three in the corner at the right moment, you know, but you know, he wasn't the superstar guy. So I was related to like Michael Cooper and James Worthy of the Lakers, you know. So I always looked at it like a basketball team sport, you know. It's like, so what's the goal? All right, let's try that. Let's go for it, you know.
That's so awesome. That's like the same concept I've always felt like I've tried to live by. So it's so cool to hear that from you as well. That it's like it's always about the team. Even like every tour we start off, or if we meet new crew people, or we talk to our label, for example, I'm always like, no one works for anybody. We're all working together. We're all working towards the common goal. You mentioned a couple things. You mentioned the touring cycle. You said it was like 15, 16 months. When you do tours like that, would that be straight, like a straight run? Would you guys have breaks in between? Like, I'm really curious how it would have been. Like,
yeah, we take breaks, and Sharon was so cool. Like we do tour legs, and then we kind of like when I was in the Ozzy band, we kind of like lived in the same house together. So we'd be do pre-production for records or tours. We kind of like would go and like to Bearsville in New York and do demos in Bearsville. And they had a house that we all lived in by the stream, and then the rehearsal barns right up there. So we were living together at that point, you know. It was just really amazing. And but she would do stuff like we'd do a tour leg, and everybody, band and crew, would be smoked. And so we'd play like, say, Fairbanks, Alaska and Anchorage, Alaska. And then she'd book Blaisdell Arena in Honolulu. So then she would give all the band and crew like 2-week vacation, bring your spouses out. We just like hang out in Hawaii together. And then we do the shows. And then usually the band and crew guys would just hole up at the place. We'd even all take vacations together. It was just amazing.
That's so cool. I'd love to do that.
Does that anymore.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that. That's amazing.
And on that crew, like, same thing as like me and Zach, right? They learned on that. Like my bass tech guy named Chris Kanzi. I don't know if you know Chris. So Chris now is production manager for Roger Waters doing The Wall now. You know, wow. The lighting director, Stan Crocker, he won an Oscar for Sting and Tuscany, you know. The drum tech, Mark Candelario, he is one of Tool's head guys. He's stage manager for Tool forever now. And like all the guys like split to go, Zach's guitar player, this Seattle luthier named Andy Beach, he went off and he made the cymbal guitar for Prince. You know? Well, like everybody from like that tour kind of just like branched out and did their own thing too. It wasn't just the band, you know. It was just such an amazing like place to grow up in. It was I highly recommend being in an Ozzy band.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like the gravitational pull, like everything that comes out of it is just magic. That's awesome that it does
And
that.
then that thing we were talking about, the team effort, was that too. I mean, I was smart enough to know I was stupid. I was the sound guys used to laugh at me and say like I wasn't even green when I was in the Ozzy band. I was light green, maybe a little green, you know. And it was just so I was smart enough to just shut my mouth and have a great time and just follow. Me and Zach just had a blast. We were just the two young guys in the band and tripping around the world and getting away with murder. It's really fun.
Man, that's
Fun.
so cool. Yeah, I'm like picturing all this in my head. Like I want to see this as like a show. That sounds
Oh
amazing.
yeah, I would just those were just times like uh I'm sure for Ozzy too, he would tell you the same thing. It was just a special group of people at one time that all came together. And then the Alice in Chains thing, flipping into that, we got back from that one tour and then they said, well, hey, Mike isn't coming back. Do you just want to be in the band? I'm like, sure. So we were in between tours. This was so post that first club tour in Europe. Then we had a few weeks off, and then we started uh talking Lollapalooza, right, was coming together. So Lollapalooza 93, excuse me, it's early in the morning. So that was like Tool, Rage Against the Machine, Primus, Fishbone, the baddest band in the land, Fishbone, uh, got all these cool bands, together. So that all that scene was breaking. So in between the two tours, they said the label said, why don't you go in and just do a quick EP? So that culminated into Jar of Flies. And so we walked in the studio, we didn't have anything. Jerry had one song, kinda. And so we walked in the studio, and once again, we just didn't know what was what. And we just like, here, what do you got? And then I contributed with Rotten Apple and I Stay Away. Those were my two contributions.
Awesome.
But it wouldn't have turned into Rotten Apple and I Stay Away without those other three guys. I had kind of some ideas, and on acoustic guitar, I had a 12 string, and Jerry's, oh, we'll play it. So I just did it real quick in the studio. That's one thing I love about that record, is the imperfection of it, and it was all just basically one or two takes, and we did, I think, 7 or 8 songs in 10 days. Wrote it, recorded, mixed it, mastered, out the door. It was the first EP in the history of music to go #1 on the Billboard charts, and we were like, holy shit, maybe we should have spent like 20 days on it instead of, but it probably would have messed everything up. So then that solidified that unit of Alice in Chains, with me playing bass, Lane, Sean, Jerry, and then, we're still doing world tours on Dirt, and on it went,
Yeah,
until,
that's so cool. Yeah, I was watching a thing yesterday, and you spoke about like when you're creating, you guys were making music for yourselves, and that's the same thing we always say. And just yesterday, I was listening to a Hans Zimmer interview, and he said the same thing. I was like, I'm curious of what his creative process is, and he's like, it's always something I want to hear first, and I want to go for it first. And he said the same thing that you said in the latter part as well. You guys had the 10 days, but you're curious what would have happened in 20 days. But he said he would work on a song forever. He's like, if someone didn't stop me, he's like, I need someone to say, okay, now we're releasing this. Now it's time. The budget's done. We're going to make this happen. It's really cool. And it sounds like
that's a role of a producer right there. I listen to producers still to this day. I mean,
yeah.
and in that respect too, I've been like Michael Wagner, Nick Raskulinich, Toby Wright, just the dudes in the studio that I just watch and absorb. John Purdell, Dwayne Barron from the Ozzy days, and it's just amazing. Like because even in the studio, like you want to like, I think it's important to kind of at least think about what the motivation is for all this stuff. It's like and if you're getting off on what's coming out of the speakers and you're with your bros and it feels good, then I mean, it gets harder and harder too as we get older to get everybody in the studio and to create that vibe, and to make it authentic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes down to just love your guys, and
Absolutely.
you love the company, and you still have a laugh. And all the old bands that I'm friends with, they all say the same thing. I mean, it's kind of a weird dysfunctional second family, in a way, and it's just Yeah, just it all comes down to chemistry and then motivation too. You really got to do this for the right reasons. If you're sitting out, especially in this day and age, just a kid trying to make money in the music industry, it's almost impossible. It's really a hard. I mean, you could get the stuff out and put it on YouTube and record at your house, but it's hard to you know what this takes. You gotta have capital, and then you have to get the tour buses, and you have to get the hotel rooms and flights, and you got to hire a crew, and then I mean that's a big undertaking. I mean, even for us still in this day, it's like to get up and rolling, it's you're months out to before you play your first gig, you know. So there's a lot that goes in, and that's the stuff I really don't like. It's hard to get motivated for me to do that stuff. I mean, I just sit around and make a bunch of racket. That's that's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
So and management too, you're lucky to have good management. It's just a hard business.
There's so many extensions to it, so many. I loved hearing the part that you said about the people you toured with and you came up with in the story you're telling, that they all got along. It's funny. We're a band that I've had other bands that they've toured with us. They go up to me and they're like, man, everywhere I look, all four of you are together. You're eating together. He's like, what's that all about? I was like, we want to be with each other. We love being with each other. And I've said it often. It's like, I don't think I'd be able to do this the way I do it if I didn't love the people I'm with. And I've tried to figure out, like, what is our dynamic? Are we best friends? I asked my wife about that. I'm like, are we best friends? She's like, no, you guys are a family. You guys are like another family. So to hear that too from someone that, like, you know, I'll get out real quick. Like, one of my heroes, massive inspiration in everything that we do as well. So to hear that is a component that you had, it's really encouraging. And I really do hope more bands can have that, because we see a lot of younger bands even now that have the same kind of black cloud that you hear of other legends, that they don't get along. They only see each other on stage, or they barely see each other on stage. That's too difficult. Like, I have to, if I'm putting something into the world because I love it, because I love to make it, and I want people to feel that love as well, I have to have that with the guys I'm with. So it's great.
At least while you're in those rooms, you know, especially in a studio situation or a tour bus. I mean, it's so funny. We laugh all the time about like we'll be telling a story, and I'll tell Jerry, hey, remember that time? Yeah, I remember that time, motherfucker. I was there too. I get it. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, it's nice to spend time apart too.
Yep.
You know, so we all grew up, and our families we're split out. And I'm in LA. Me and Jerry are in LA, and Sean's in Seattle still. Jerry has a place in Seattle, and I had moved back down to LA. And William, our singer, is in Atlanta, Georgia. So we're kind of split. So we don't like me and Cantrell go golfing and stuff like that, or deep sea fishing, stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so when we're home though, we kind of let everybody.
Yeah, they have to have their number one family time. Yeah.
So before we didn't have a life, we were just on it, but that was our life, you know, sink or swim, you know, and especially when you don't have money, food and shelter, that's a good motivation to work hard, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember one of the first tours we didn't even think to have a cooler, so we just had. I remember I learned what a rider was from the band God Forbid, and I was like, he's like, hey, did you guys just get your rider today? I was like, what's a rider? It's like, oh, you know, like Hostess donuts, Reese's Pieces, Smirnoff Ice. I was like, oh, you have to get those exact things. So I got Hostess donuts, Reese's Pieces, Smirnoff Ice, and Jaeger.
And you're pumped about it.
Yeah,
like,
we're so excited.
Alcohol and donuts.
Yeah,
oh, it's a paying gig. It's a win. It's a win.
So we'd mix Jaeger and orange juice that was both warm, because we just weren't smart enough to get a cooler, in red Solo cups, and that was the old Trivium drink. It was just this brown sludge that was awful in room temperature. But yeah, so
Jägermeister, when it's coming out at the bar, when it's coming out of the thing where they pour it, you know, the machine, it sounds like the machine is puking, you know.
It's a foreshadowing of what's going to happen. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Food is one of my favorite things in the world, and we both come from food cultures: Filipino culture, Japanese culture.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite thing you've eaten, or your favorite country, or favorite traditional cuisine? It doesn't have to be a dish, but our favorite place. One of those things. Favorite country, anything.
With me, it's about the experience and you know, I mean, you can get good food anywhere in the world, you know. And that's one of the things that we still love to do. We try to every tour go to a new place we've never been before and experience local food and local culture. This last tour, he played like in Estonia for the first time, Greece, Tel Aviv. We did that Caesarea amphitheater. It's the oldest Roman amphitheater in Caesarea in Israel. We did that. And St. Petersburg, Moscow. You know, before the tour before that was Singapore. We're always trying to, you know, branch out a little bit, but it's hard to get all your gear around the world. It costs so much money now. It's hard to say go to South Africa. We always put that on the list. Hey, well, let's go play in Africa somewhere. And just like you do the numbers and it's like you're losing money to go to these places, you know. So, but like I was just in Paris with my mother is retiring. So I took my mother, my 77-year-old Filipino mother, and my wife, and the three of us just went to Paris. I had 1,100,000 free air miles on American Airlines.
Man.
And I was just thinking like, wow, where do you want to go, Mom? Let's do it. She said, oh, I always wanted to see the Rodin Museum in Paris. So we went to Paris. And so like, I remember those moments. It isn't really the food, but it's the moment of sitting with my mom by the Louvre, or we're looking at the Eiffel Tower and seeing my mom's face of seeing this. She's never been out of the country in her life. And just to see my mother's face when she's like in Paris, you know, those kind of things. My tech for 14 years, his name was Scott Dockrade, and he passed away, right? Pancreas cancer last October. And he's my best friend and my tech. And he was also the band photographer. So all the great Alice in Chains shots of the last 15 years were all Scotty. And so, yeah, when he passed, we started going through like all the pictures he took over the years. And every day off, it's like me and him sitting in the Red Square in Moscow, or me and him in Singapore, me and him in Japan and Shibuya crossing there, you know, together. Just so it's about the experience and living in the moment and just really enjoying your life. I mean, I hate when I go out on the road. I don't care how grumpy you are or how uncomfortable your body feels from the travel or this or that. If you're waking up in Istanbul, Turkey, shut the fuck up. You're on a great adventure. Nobody gets to do what we do. So like blessed to be able to do this with my best friends and just the adventure of it all. But yeah, it's for me, it's not about the food. It's or the gig per se, you know. It's the I mean, opening for Metallica at Rock in Rio, 180,000, like that is amazing, right? But it's not just that. It's the camaraderie of going to these far away, you know how it is, go away to these far away places and you're running into friends at airports and you're just like at gigs and you're backstage hanging out with this person or that person and you know, playing jams at these shows in the warm-up room with just different, you know, dudes. Or it's just amazing that we get to do that, you know. So I remember experiences more, and it's always a fellowship for me, you know. Yeah. It's almost like I don't know, it's a pirate thing almost, you know. Not a lot of people, you know this. It's just you get there, and this lifestyle is not for everybody.
No, it's not. And I feel like you're saying the things of our inner monologue, and that's so pleasing to hear. Like I say all the time that we're so blessed musicians to be able to wake up in a place where people have saved their yearly salary to go travel to, and you need to respect that culture, learn about that culture. And we just got to do a bunch of first time places ourselves: Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia for the second time, Japan for the multiple time, and it's just so fun. We just all go out together, band and crew, eat and drink and see the sights and learn about the countries. And
we never did Indonesia. We did Singapore once, and amazing country. That so harbor cool. And the buildings are alive. The architecture, it's just, you know, just see that stuff is amazing. I've never played the Philippines. I played Japan a bunch, but never like South Korea or Thailand. I always want to go to Thailand, and but
those are such fun spots, man. Fun spots. Our last video is all basically us eating in those countries. So usually our highlights on socials, our videos.
You need a food show, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, food is my favorite thing in the world. So like the
last. Only chicken adobo.
Oh, it was amazing. We played one show there. I ate everything. It was so great. I didn't have balut though. I didn't try that. I wasn't ready yet. Next time.
But so, like, for all your listeners who don't know what a balut is, it's a duck egg of a pre-hatched duck that's inside the shell still. And it's just, my grandma used to eat those, and it would just smell the whole house up when she popped that shell on the egg. It was just like feathers and beaks and eyeballs.
Japan, we've got a thing that's kind of so we have a whole style called getomono, which means ugly food. But one of the things of that people love for breakfast is natto. It's rotten soybeans, and when you pull them apart, the string of slime goes like just keeps going. But my mom would love that for breakfast, so my dad's always like, no, that's got to stay in the garage fridge. I don't want to smell that stuff.
That's not a good way to start the day.
Yes, it is. Good old natto and rice, man. It took me a long time to get used to that. But South Africa, you mentioned. South Africa's food scene is amazing as well. And Cape Town kind of looks like a mix of Miami and Venice Beach. and they have this mountain that has a winery, a brewery, a pizza maker, a chocolate shop, all these different like local artisanal things. And we just hopped from like the vineyard to the pizza place to the brewery to the chocolate place. It was a fun spot. But
there's nothing more I like than sitting in like the Prague Center Square or anywhere and just sitting, having coffee, watching the world go around. It's just that's one of my favorite things in the world. It's
it's
just
so
getting
great.
food and just watching, you
Yep.
know, it all
There's
in.
speaking of Prague, there's a shot of us in the latest video of us. It was a show day, and normally I never drink on a show day. Our bass player absolutely never does. But he's like, you know what? Let's get a beer and sausage. And it was like the winter time, just like snowing. We're standing there in the center of the square, eating the pork leg and bread and drinking beer. And it's like 1 o'clock on a show day. I'm like, this is kind of awesome. Luckily,
Yeah, watching the clock, watching
yeah.
that clock and the
Oh,
bridge
yep.
right there
Yep.
and all the shops and
Yep.
yeah.
It's so cool, man. Yeah, I'm getting chills like just thinking about these places, even though we were just there. Like, man, looking forward to getting back. But I feel like we just did a cycle it'll be 2 years in August. So I think we're gonna hit like 225 shows on one record cycle. It's like, man, we haven't done this kind of run since we first started, which we did like a 230 or 240 on our second record. This is the first time
That
since
is
then.
beautiful. Those are the things at the beginning of the tour. It's so daunting. You're like, how the hell am I going to get through this? And it's just one day at a time, like
Yep.
anything else. You know,
Yep.
getting through 24 hours at a time, getting sleep, getting rest.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just it's not for everybody though. That's why I hate when I run out of there and I run out and I'll be backstage and I'll run into some band that hasn't made and they're just really bummed out and just pissy and it's like, oh man, you say a quick prayer for those people. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, man.
We'll meet bands younger than us, and they're just like, man, we don't like food anywhere else other than in America, and they just like kind of list off their favorite chain places. Like, man, this is you're missing out on everything.
Yeah,
But I'm
people
so
go to like these cool places and then they go eat at McDonald's. Like,
yeah,
dude, what are you doing? There's
Yep.
Italian food here or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
Like, you're in
Yep.
Italy. Get some pasta. Hang
Yeah.
out. You know.
Dude.
I caught a show. I'm really good friends with the Iron Maiden guys. So I was at your show in Austin when
Oh,
it was
dang.
the first American show. And I went early just to see you guys play.
Oh,
So I
man.
know Carrie Harris, Steve Harris's daughter, and just a lot of friends on the Maiden crew. So I went down early, hung out, and then I saw you guys play I had a box. They put us in a fancy box right behind the soundboard up on top. And I had a perfect view of you. And I got to say, I was so amazed because like, there's nothing more I liked than seeing a humble guy get up there and just kick some faces. And you were so good. You're
Man,
calling
thank
everybody,
you.
my friends, my friends, my friends. You kept saying that to him, and I was just really impressed that night
Oh,
by you.
man.
It was amazing. It sounded great. You had a good sound mix. And Carrie Harris was telling me that it was the first night of the American tour. So there was a lot of moving parts still going. They were still putting stuff together and stuff. But well, it's like, and we were on tour with Breaking Benjamin and Bush doing our summer thing. So we played the F1 race track there, that amphitheater they had there, and you guys played the arena. So it was nice to actually go to a show where it was just outdoor gigs all summer in the hot. And so it was actually nice. I went with my tech and just to sit there in the air condition watching a concert. I remember I was so like happy to be inside watching a full light show and it was just a really, really fun time. You guys look like you were having a blast though.
Oh, man, it was so cool. Thank you so much. That's awesome to hear that, man. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it was a
But
blast.
yeah, you came out, dude. Humble motherfucker, just kicked their face. Loved it. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, it's what's been so cool about our chat. Like, I feel like we have similar energies, and that makes me really happy to see. And
Yeah, we gotta hang out.
yeah, let's do it, man. Let's eat. Let's hang out. Let's jam. I love it.
Yeah, come to California.
Yeah, man. Got to.
I'll take you fishing.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Awesome, my friend. Well, the timer on Zoom is about to run up, but I want to thank you so much for your time today. I had an absolute blast hearing this. This is I pictured every moment, so this was really, really fun for me. I pictured it all.
Okay, so you manifested.
Yeah, heck yes, man. Heck yes. But thank you so much. And it really means a lot to hear a lot of the things that we believe and hold in our heart for the way we do things coming from you as well. So that's awesome.
We touched on important stuff, motivation.
Yep.
And fellowship. And I mean, those are the key ingredients to be a pirate in this day and age.
Yes, they are. Heck yes, my friend. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. Please stay in touch. If you're ever in Florida, let me know. If I'm ever in California, I'll let you know.
Okay, for sure, man.
Awesome, my friend. Heck yes, dude.
Okay,
Great to see you, man. Thank you so much.
See ya.
All right, man. You take care.